We get the YouTube video of him messing with the water bottle, but we also see the parentheses, the countdown day to hashtag the lesson.
Yeah, most definitely. And I like how that guy learned a fucking lesson. Like, he learned you know what lesson that first guy learned? The only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. That's the fucking lesson he learned. Hello everyone, and thank you for listening to Ask Me If I Give a Shit, the movie reviews podcast where we ask that fundamental question that so many others leave out. Do I give a shit?
Do I really do?
Do I give a shit about this story? Do I give a shit about these people? Do I give a shit about what is happening to them? And today we're going to talk to you about a little movie called Spree. That we give a shit about.
Not the candy.
Not the candy. Yeah, today we're going to talk to you about a movie called Spree from 2020, and it's a movie that we give a shit about, that we think you should give a shit about, and today we're gonna tell you why. So, first thing we see is the dude from Stranger Things. Now, you're probably wondering which one. It's the Domino's pizza guy. It's the guy that was in those commercials. It's the guy that seemed like the asshole jock boyfriend in Stranger Things, but actually turned out to be a really good guy, especially for a guy that got dumped and had to see his girlfriend pick up another dude, and he actually did the gentleman thing and was happy for her and still looked out for his little homies, you know? So, yeah, it's the dude with the hair from Stranger Things. It starts out with like what looks like a cell phone video of a YouTube type of thing, and he's like, hey guys, this is Kurt from Kurt's World, and he starts telling his little life story. And
in other words, a YouTube blog?
A YouTube blog, right? This guy's starting out, he starts telling his life story to his phone and whoever's watching on his, stream or his video that he posted or whatever, and we see this montage of these little videos where he starts out saying, hey guys, this is Kurt from Kurt's World, and he has these little drawings going along with it where he's like telling his life story and these sort of, little like Sharpie marker drawings that he's doing. Illustrations, man, it was pretty dope. And he talks about like what led up to him being where he is making these videos, and there's a couple things in it other than this, but basically what happened was his parents got divorced when he was in like middle school or something like that, and he got lonely, and so his mom, like parents often do, they buy them shit to compensate for their guilt. So she bought him some kind of a gaming system, and he got really into online gaming, and that led to him starting his very own YouTube channel. So the whole beginning of this is just like a montage is told in different little cell phone YouTube videos.
It's a cringy montage.
It's a cringy montage, yeah, and he's kind of a cringy person that's trying so hard to be smooth, and he does it well with his tone and everything, but it's like a robot from outer space did it. It's just not authentic, but he's showing these little clips from his YouTube channel. The director is showing us this there, and it's him doing everything that you pretty much find on YouTube, he's got little videos about life hacks, he's got these videos about these generic observations, he's got product reviews, everything from like Nike shoes to vapes and shit like that, and he just basically tries to sell himself by being the most basic person ever, like that fucking generic basic person that you see in social media influencer world. That's him, and he just
in other words, not a unique personality whatsoever.
Not a unique personality whatsoever. I don't think anything about him was concerned with being authentic. He was just trying to be somebody that he thought the world would like. So, he goes on about his life story, and he's like, yeah, and then I started babysitting, and I actually met some interesting people that grew up and that I still keep up with now. And this is significant because one of the kids that he used to babysit grew up to be a successful social media influencer, and a guy named Bobby that calls himself Bobby Basecamp.
I think Bobby has his own house, studio, stuff like that.
Oh, too, yeah, Bobby's like hella successful. I forget what that fucking guy's name is. The one that basically started out doing razor scooter tricks and ended up buying himself a McLaren and shit. I forget what that fucker's name is, but he's like that guy, basically. Anyway, our character in this, Kurt, he goes on to say, and that's led me up to what I'm doing currently, which is a Spree driver. And Spree is the name that the writers of this movie made up for the rideshare app that Kurt works for, because once you find out where this movie is going, you'll understand why Uber and Lyft were not willing at all to have their names put on this movie. But yeah, he's basically an Uber or a Lyft driver, okay? So after he gives his little backstory and the little drawings and the little things about the people he knows and babysat that grew up to be successful in doing the same thing he's doing, the camera just cuts to black, and it's just a black screen with white text on it, and it says, Kurt Kunkle, who is Kurt's World 96 on YouTube or Instagram or wherever he's at, has spent over 10 years promoting content in obscurity. And it says his videos rarely get into the double digits in terms of the amount of people that watch his stuff and let alone interact with him. He doesn't get even 10 fingers on that. So the next thing we see is he's kind of standing on the side of the road, and he's posting some of these moody videos where he's like, "Hi guys, it's Kurt from Kurt's World, and I'm not doing well. It's hard right now. It's not always easy to be alone with your thoughts and making these videos and stuff, and sometimes it can be difficult, but that's often where your greatest inspiration comes from." And then the next thing we find out is he has just had a great moment of inspiration. He just had a huge epiphany, and he lets everyone know because his mood changes in the next video. He was like, "Guys, I've just had the best idea ever, and I want you to know something big is going to happen with me. I am going to teach you guys the lesson." And that's what he calls it. He's like, "I got this great idea and it's called the lesson." And then the camera cuts back to a black screen with white text on it, and it says, "On April 12th, 2019, Kurt finally went viral." The next thing we see is that Kurt has outfitted his Toyota Prius that he uses for his Uber driver job with 8 different cameras.
I believe it's the front shield, the driver and passenger side windows, and then the rear passenger and driver side windows, and the trunk.
Yeah, like it's really well covered. There's nowhere in this bitch that you can't get a close-up of anything that's going on in that car whatsoever. And he even says, for my premium subscribers, as you're going to watch this amazing thing I'm about to do called The Lesson, you're going to get to choose your own camera angle. And by the way, I'll also be live sharing my phone screen so you can see what's going on, I guess, so you can see what his comments coming in are and how he decides to respond to them.
Oh yeah,
right,
like you would do with a live feed nowadays.
Right, exactly. So the next thing we see is he's about to go out and take off on this video for this amazing thing that he's got called The Lesson. But before he does that, he stops, he runs inside. We're seeing it through the rear camera of the Prius actually, and he runs inside, he speaks to his mom, and he comes back out with like a magic crystal or some shit that he hangs from the rear view mirror that sits in the center of the car. And then he starts driving down the road, and he gives this vague little statement where he's like, "Okay, so guys, listen, you should know there is a trigger warning on this video. It's not for everybody, but for the real ones, man, all I gotta say is it's time to go viral. You're gonna be able to watch this and you're gonna love this." So he goes along, he's driving down around, and he's looking for a fare to pick up. And the first person he picks up is this glasses and ponytail white dude named Trevor. And Trevor gets in the car and he's like, "Hey man, what's with all the cameras?" And he's like, "Oh, it's for my social media platform, man. I'm an influencer and it's for my protection, and I'm just trying to, really work on my game as a social media influencer." And Trevor's like, "Oh, that's really great, bro. It's really good to see men like us out here trying to figure out this whole social media thing." And before that, he talks about how he's on his way to give a speech and it's going to be to like 3,000 people. And Kurt's like, "Ooh, neat, you got an audience," because he's like totally obsessed with anybody that's got any kind of an audience.
Or any kind of influence.
Right? And so he's really excited initially to be talking to somebody that's going to go speak to people, like, 3,000 of them, right? But then he gets to thinking, he's like, "Hey man, what did you mean by men like us?" And Trevor's like, "Oh, white men. You are white, aren't you? You're not Jewish or anything like that, are you?" And he's like, "I don't know, dude. Everybody's the same." He's like, "Oh, come on, man. Just say it with me. I'm proud to be white." And then he starts spouting off all this typical, like, white supremacist, and I'm not talking about like systemic racism, implicit bias type of, like, I'm talking about like actual fucking a real white supremacist. This dude he's a fucking Nazi. He's a California Nazi.
I got cringy.
Yeah, it got beyond cringy, okay? And
he even turns to the camera, and I think Bobby Basecamp is watching and asking if he's okay and everything.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm fine." And he starts talking back to his guy, and he's like, "Hey man, shut the fuck up with all that racism shit. I'm trying to go viral here. This is very important to remember about Kurt." He's not so much concerned because he thinks that, racism is inherently wrong, which it is, damn it. But he's like, "Oh no, if you start saying that racist shit on my channel, I'm not going to get views. It's going to affect me negatively." And so he starts giving disclaimers and stuff like that. And he starts telling him, like, "Look, the main guy that I'm trying to connect with and link up with here tonight to get to share my video, who is Bobby Basecamp, he's like, he's Asian. So you need to shut the fuck up with all that white people are the master race shit. I'm not doing it. I'm not having it. It ain't happening. I'm not putting up with that bullshit, motherfucker. Shut the the fuck up. And the guy's like, yeah, well, okay. Like a typical, like, piece of shit racist. He's like, oh, well, okay. I guess he respects strength, I guess, or some shit like that. So he's like, oh, man, that's okay. I guess you're all right for a libtard, or some dumb shit like that. And Kurt's just like, oh, yeah, whatever, motherfucker. Just chill out, sit back, and drink the water in the backseat. There's a free water back there, because Uber drivers oftentimes, some have candy and snacks, water, and shit like that.
This is about to, what was about to come, it might change your mind about taking something.
Oh, yeah, you might think twice the next time you take a ride, because old boy Trevor here, sitting in the back, decides, oh, I'm going to help myself to this water. I guess since a white person gave it to me, it's safe, or whatever. I don't know who the fuck that dumbass was thinking. But anyway, he decides to drink the water.
And of course you hear it crack. This is a very important thing. You hear it crack.
You hear what crack?
The water bottle being cracked open.
Oh, yeah, he cracks it open like it's a sealed bottle of water. Breaks the seal, he starts drinking it, and he's like, this tastes kind of funny, man. What kind of water is this? Like, what the fuck's going on? And all of a sudden he starts like coughing, and he's looking around, and he's like, I don't quite feel right, man. And Kurt's like, yeah, so how many people exactly are in your organization? He's like, like a lot, but why are you asking? What's up with this? What's going on? What's up with this water? He's like, yeah, you should probably let your people know you're not gonna make it tonight, motherfucker. And then he coughing gets serious, and the dude passes out. And shortly before that, our camera cuts back to a video that Kurt had posted on Kurt's World 96, like
counting down the days to
counting down the days to this video that he's doing called The Lesson. And he's sitting there with a syringe and like a case full of bottled water, and he's like, okay guys, the way to go about doing this is you just peel the label back, you stick in the syringe, and you shoot it up with the poison, and then you take a little dab of hot glue and you put it on, and you put the label back, and there you make sure it's like sealed watertight, and no one will ever suspect that you've just given them something that's been tampered with. And then the camera cuts to the right, and we see he's not only shot up one bottle of water with fucking poison, he's got a whole case of these motherfuckers sitting there ready to go.
Like I said, it makes you double think about taking anything that's free.
Oh, most definitely. So, like Trevor like gets worse and worse, and he passes out, and he just finally like just nods off, and that's it. And the next thing we see is Kurt just smiling. He gives a peace sign to his viewers that are watching, and then it cuts to the next scene where the backseat is mysteriously empty, and it's time to pick up the next fare. And it's like, what the fuck? Did he just like poison somebody to death? And you're like, holy shit. So the next thing that happens is the next person he picks up is this cunty real estate lady who just won't get off the fucking phone or acknowledge him or do anything, and he doesn't even have to try with her. She just gets in and keeps rambling on to whoever the fuck she's talking to about all this dumb shit. And
of course, when you're rambling on or going into an argument with your significant other, which is
or
sounds
whoever
like
the fuck she was talking to,
yeah, or whoever she was talking to, your throat's gonna get dry. So what does she do?
She picks up the water without him even trying to tell her, and she starts drinking it, and of course she starts coughing and passes the fuck out. It cuts pretty quickly to that. Like, it doesn't even show the process with her. Next thing we see, she starts drinking the water, and the next thing we see is she's just like leaning there, presumably dead, against the window of the car. So Kurt pulls over the car, and he gets back there, and he starts talking to his audience. He's like, okay guys, what you need to do at this point when something's going on is, if you're doing what I'm doing tonight, is you need to get into this person's phone, because we're early on in the game here, and you don't want to be doing too much early on. So he's like, sometimes it can be hard to get into people's phone if they don't have a thumbprint or whatever. Like, this person has the face unlock feature on her phone. It's got to see a picture of her face, so he just takes the phone, and
he doesn't touch her at all. He moves the phone around to get a better angle.
Yeah. He moves the phone around. He's like, you can get into somebody's phone even if they're passed out, and that's exactly what he does with this chick's phone. And the next thing he does is he pulls up the Uber app, the Spree app or whatever, and he's like, okay, cool, here's me. I'm gonna give myself a 5-star rating, and I don't want to tip myself too much, so I'm just gonna tip $2. So he gives himself a 5-star rating and a $2 tip from this woman that he just killed with poison water. And then the next thing he does is he pulls up the conversation from the person that she was just talking to about their real estate business, and how she was gonna catch a red-eye flight to go see him, and all this shit, and pulls up a text message to that guy, and he's like, you're a loser. Nobody even likes that crap that you put online, motherfucker. And P.S. I'm canceling my red-eye. Sayonara, bitch. And that's the end of that. So, shortly after he sends that text message, the next thing that we see after that is that the car is empty again and he's just carrying right on down the road. The next thing we see is that he decides to take a 2-for-1 deal, what's called in this movie a spree social fare, which I guess is kind of like when you share a ride with a friend or with another Uber, customer or whatever.
Yeah, it's essentially what it is that you as the rider are willing to share your ride. If someone needs to be picked up on the way, you're willing to share your ride with them.
And it like saves you both a little bit of money or something like that.
Just a smidge, like maybe $2 or $3.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what happens next. He picks up this just rude motherfucker that's just all full of himself and his own bullshit, and he's just so generic it wasn't even all that worth describing. But he picks up this rude motherfucker.
His name's Mario.
Mario, okay, yeah, this dude named Mario. And Mario, of course, just like, he's not talking to any business partner or whatever, but he's like talking to his social media audience or some damn shit like that. And he is like trying to go somewhere and do something. It's vague. I don't remember exactly where he was going.
He's getting laid.
Oh yeah, he's trying to go get some, right? So he picks up this dude named Mario, and on the way to take him to go do his thing and whatever, he's like, hold on a second, we're gonna make a little detour. And Mario's like, where the fuck are you going, dude? He's like, hold on a second, we're gonna pick up another person that's gonna be
you just missed my
route.
turn.
He's like, yeah, you just missed my turn. Like, what's going on, bitch? He's like,
I have a girl waiting for me to fuck her.
I have a girl waiting for me to fuck her. And he's like, well, guess what, motherfucker? There's a girl that needs to be picked up that's trying to get somewhere and do shit, and we're gonna do that first. And he's like, damn it, and he protests and whatever, until of course they pull up on this chick that's like, trying to get an Uber ride. It's this chick named Jessie, and she's like a comedian that's really been successful and been hitting it big, and she's up and coming. And she sees this car pull up, and she's like, look, bro, I just canceled the ride. I'm not even trying to get in the car with you guys and go.
Don't forget, with the way that they pull up on her as a woman, that would have me freaked out, especially two guys in the same car.
Stranger danger.
Oh yeah, that's a big giant red flag.
And she should have paid attention to red flag number 2, which is where, even though she just canceled the ride on her phone, he's like, well, it's okay that you just canceled the ride. Just hop in. I'll just give you the ride for free.
And then near the end, it's an ominous saying of, oh yeah, I don't do this just for money.
And that's exactly what I was just going to say, is if rideshare drivers gave people rides for free, then they would not be out there doing this at all, okay? Like, the rideshare app wouldn't even exist, or it would be something entirely different. But anyway, she sees that first red flag and ignores it, and I guess she ignores red flag number 2 and decides to get in the car with these motherfuckers anyway. I guess probably because she's a comedian, and they say that comedy is what, pain plus time or some shit like that?
Something like that.
I don't know. I'm not very funny. But anyway, it's something like that. And so she gets in the car, probably out of morbid curiosity, with this rude bastard Mario and this weird driver Kurt. And as they're going along, all of a sudden, Mario recognizes her. He's like, hey, aren't you so and such? I've heard about your stuff and you're great and shit like that. And he starts pulling out his phone and he's like, check it out, guys. I'm here in the car with this comedian Jessie. And she's like, oh my god, dude, fuck off. I'm not trying to be on your shit right now. And they just start beefing back and forth. And she ends up pulling out her phone and she goes live to her shit and she like disses him and shames him and shit like that. And
also Kurt, because Kurt is being...
Kurt too, because this is exactly what the fuck he wants. He's like, oh my god, I've got single digit numbers and your influencer shit. Like, you're gonna try to like leech on anybody around you that's doing any kind of live stream shit, like a parasite, and try to jump in on that to get your numbers over the amount of fingers you have.
Yeah, he went ahead and kept jumping up and saying, oh yeah, hashtag the lesson, hashtag Kurt's
Oh yeah, he's trying to tell them while they're streaming. He's like, hey, shout me out, like plug me in, like let everyone know that I'm here. It's me, Kurt. Don't forget about me. And they're just like completely ignoring him, and they keep pissing each other off until basically she's like, you know what, fuck this, pull the car over, I'm getting out. And he's like, well, damn it, don't forget to take a water with you. And she grabs one, of course, and then she's still beefing with the dude Mario, and they're going back and forth. And he's like, hey, you don't have to be like this, you should smile more and people wouldn't think you're such a bitch. And she's like, oh yeah, you think I'm a bitch? How's this, motherfucker? And she like opens the cap and she squirts like half the fucking water bottle in his face, and then she throws the other one at the windshield of the car, and then she walks off. And of course Kurt's probably this time like, damn it, I almost got one. So anyway, she walks off, and Kurt and Mario keep driving down the road, and they're not very far along until Mario's like, oh man, that was humiliating. I'm getting all this negative feedback on my Instagram now because she just burned me and
Not
shit.
only that, but he also says he doesn't feel good
Yeah,
too.
he starts saying he doesn't feel good because he just got sloshed in the face with some poisoned water, and he's like, man, I don't feel good, I think I'm gonna puke. And Kurt's like, oh, you're not puking in my car, dude. Here, hold on a second. And he drives him like off this dirt road, kind of in the off the beaten path in the middle of nowhere for a second, and he's like,
red flag number 3.
Oh hell yeah. But this dude is oblivious. He doesn't know shit. He doesn't see anything outside of himself and what he wants in that exact moment.
I'm waiting for a bitch to come up and give me some pleasure.
Yeah, he's trying to get some. He's trying to go have himself one of those jelly donuts like our boy did in Arkansas.
I'm sorry, as a woman, if that type of man was even trying to get anywhere near me with like that, nah.
You know, not to give a libertarian sermon in the middle of our podcast or anything, but here's my libertarian sermon. This is why prostitution should be legal, is so that you don't have guys like that throwing themselves at you. I'm not saying they wouldn't still exist, because they would, but like there wouldn't be this overwhelming fucking abundance of them if there was just a store that they could go to that women that got paid to put up with that type of shit could give them what they wanted, and then they would just fuck off.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, that is the whole question of why should it be illegal to sell something that it is legal to give away for free, but more on that later. So anyhow, he gets out of the car and he's standing out there on this dirt road and he's kind of like leaning over and he's like looking like he's about to throw up or whatever.
And he also tells him he has to go to the bathroom anyway.
Yeah, has to go to the bathroom anyway. So anyway, he's outside of the car off the beaten path of this little dirt road after just getting splashed in the face with this poison water, and all of a sudden...
I'm a gummy bear. Yes,
I'm a gummy bear. The fucking movie starts playing this dumbass song from 2009 that was on those ringtone commercials and shit, the I'm a gummy bear shit, and Kurt looks at the camera, gets this evil, psychotic look on his face, and then he just runs this motherfucker Mario over with his car and kills him.
Runs him over actually several times. He's like
several times, like back and forth. He's a very thorough guy, so he burks Mario with his car, basically, just in case the water in the face wasn't enough to finish him off or whatever. So,
plus anyway, to be completely honest, that is a good satisfying for that asshole.
Yeah, because that dude was just, I had no sympathy whatsoever for him at this point. So, yeah, now we're up to 3. This is 3 fucking asshole Californians that Kurt has murked while he's out trying to go viral, right? The next thing we see is he hits this dude up, Bobby Basecamp, this like guy who grew up to be a really successful influencer or whatever, and he starts like talking to him back and forth, and he's like, hey man, did you just see that? And apparently like he wasn't even watching, right? And so they're going back and forth. He's like, what do you mean, man? Come on, like you gotta pay attention to me. He's like, this is boring. Nobody wants to see just a regular dude driving people around. And he's like standing at a gas station filling his car up. He's like, bro, I am out here literally, and he's about to say killing people like while I'm taking him places with my car, but he looks over his shoulder and realizes there's a fucking cop standing next to him, so he kind of walks away and mouths it or whatever. And he's like, goes back and forth in this conversation with Bobby Basecamp, and he's like, hey man, like what about your promise to, like, you know, you said you were gonna share my live video that I'm doing on your channel, which has all these people, like what about your promise? And he's just like, first off, what you're doing is evil, but second of all, and more importantly to Bobby Basecamp, which just tells you a little bit about people in their world and their real morals, he's like, it's boring, nobody wants to watch this, so basically you need to get some what the fuck moments or get the fuck out. Like this isn't happening. I'm not doing it unless you can give me some content, some really good watchable shit that people are gonna want to see.
Oh yeah.
So Kurt's like, all right, fine, I'll up my game. The next thing we see, he goes downtown to like, you know, the nightclub district, and he picks up these 3 insufferable hipster assholes who are doing their insufferable hipster asshole shit. Like when I say insufferable asshole hipster shit, it's not even so much the content in particular of what they were saying, it's the motherfucking tone with which they were saying it. You ever heard that insufferable hipster tone?
Or the best way to put it into perspective, if no one has heard it, it's like that one annoying teacher that has that one annoying voice.
And you just know it's fake as fuck and they don't want to be there, or they don't give a fuck about anybody with...
But they have to be there, so they're trying to force the niceness out of it.
Yeah, except this is the version of that goes not with niceness, and these people aren't actually getting paid. They're doing that with coolness. Like, they're not actually cool. They don't give a fuck. They just want you to think that they're cool, and so this is the voice they make up that they think that you want to hear because they don't know anything about you, and this is what they're trying to, you know, come off
because
as.
I think they even mentioned this was supposed to be on the gram.
And I'm surprised that they got away with saying that. Like, if they had said Instagram, they probably would have got some shit from Instagram in this movie, if Instagram cares. But anyway, so yeah, he picks up these 3 insufferable fucking assholes that are, you know, just got out of the club, and they're like on their Instagram live and doing shit and whatever, and they're like, ooh, cool, we're in a car that has interior lit LED lights. Like, little do they know they're on a death stage, but they're like, ooh, yeah, this is neat, this is cool. And Kurt starts doing shit basically to take Bobby's advice, and he starts running red lights and driving fast and shit, doing dangerous stuff just to drive up the value of his content, the views for his content. And, you know, he notices these people are like interested interested in their Instagram followers and their viewers and shit like that. And he's like, look, I can tell that you guys are just trying to go and have a great adventure that you think the people that follow you will be interested in and want to pay attention to.
I know a place.
He says, I know a place. I know some cool place that I can take you guys that you'll love, that you'll have a great time at, that your followers will love. And they're just like, oh my God, yes, take me there, please. Like right now, oh my God. And so like the third chick that was sitting back there, like she crawls up and sits next to him in the passenger seat, and she's like all flirty and shit. And then there's just like this guy and this girl in the back, and they're all into each other and their dumb Instagram bullshit.
And one of them finds a
cordless drill. He finds a cordless drill. He's like, oh, check it out. What's this? And he's like, hey, give me that right now. And he takes the drill away from me. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Fix-It. I don't mean to touch your stuff. Anyway, Kurt takes them to a junkyard, and he's like, hey, check this out. You guys are like rock stars. Let me open the sunroof in the back, and you guys just climb out it like it's a limousine. Just like get out and just see the night. And they're like, okay, that's cool, whatever.
Prom queens.
Yeah, so they turn on their little live stream with their followers, and they're like hanging out the sunroof, and they're like doing stuff, and he's driving fast when there's little overhead bars and stuff, and they're like barely missing, hitting them in the head, and they're like, oh my God, this is cool, this is great, look how many viewers and how many followers I've got watching me right now, this is awesome. He's like, yeah, it's awesome, I told you guys would like this. And meanwhile, the girl that's sitting there in the front seat with him, she's like flirting with him, but it's like fake flirting, like you can't even tell if she even knows why she's doing it. It's like, it's just the most cringy shit ever.
And not only that, but he explains that, yeah, his grandfather on his mom's side owned the junkyard, that
oh yeah, that's how you know, because she's like, oh my God, this is such a great place. Like she's saying all this dumb shit trying to sound deep, but she's like, oh my God, this is such a great place. How did you know about this place? Something must have meant to bring us here, man. It was the universe, man. This is meant to be, man. And you know, and she's like flirting with him. These two assholes in the back are doing their shit. And
deja vu.
And she, oh yeah, they have this dumbass statement where he's like, oh my God, I think I have deja vu right now. And then his dumbass little friend is like, oh, you know, deja vu means that the universe wanted you to be there for that moment. Like that's not what deja vu is.
Deja vu is meaning you're experiencing the same thing over. So that means that one of your timeline persons has experienced this before, and now you're in the same situation as them.
I think the Matrix is fucking with me right now, bro. I've been here before, but I can't remember why. And that's not at all how they translate it. So they misinterpret deja vu, and they say it's just all this dumb shit. And all of a sudden, Kurt's like, hey, I have an idea. He closes the sunroof, like not enough to cut them in half or anything, but just to keep them from coming back down into the car. And all of the sudden,
he power steers into the gate.
He like power slides into the gate of the junkyard. He's got him trapped in the sunroof, and all of a sudden, for the first time in this little junkyard in the middle of nowhere, the car's sitting still. It's just the two hipsters in the back trapped with the sunroof, and they think it's some kind of neat prank or whatever. And this like fake flirty girl sitting there in the passenger seat next to him. The girl in the passenger seat starts to talk to him, and she starts to say something to him about like, oh my God, my followers love this. This is great. He's like, oh hey, show me. But before she can do that or even finish, these two massive fucking roided up junkyard dogs run up beside him and try to jump in her window, but he rolls it up really fast, and since that's rolled up, they decide to take the next best approach to express their love for these people invading their space, and they run up on the hood of the car and up to the roof, and they maul these motherfuckers that are hanging out the sunroof to death. And it just, as soon as that starts happening, Kurt picks up that cordless drill and he stabs the bitch next to him in the side of the head, and that makes 7. That's like 7 kills. So yeah, that's pretty much your wind up for how your movie spree begins, and it pretty much gets crazier from there. The movie spree gets crazier from there. It goes more into depth and backstory, and it's got a lot of things that build into the story. It's really well done and tied together, and we just got to stop it there because we don't want to spoil any more of it for you. But yeah, this is basically a serial killer movie and a social media movie at the same damn time, on the phone cooking dope at the same damn time.
You know, in this movie, I really would like to get a kill count on how many times the water actually kills somebody.
Doesn't he actually give a kill count somewhere in this movie? I think he did.
I think one of the people that we were looking at did do a kill count.
Yeah, definitely.
But he also keeps count himself too, because I think he says he got like seven people at one point.
Yeah, I think he did give it a couple of times. So yeah, this is basically a movie about a serial killer, and it's kind of a social media movie at the same time, and it really portrays a pretty basic American theme in it. So yeah, this is definitely a big what the fuck did I just watch movie. So Danny, our first question about this movie today is, what genre of movie is this, would you say?
Thriller?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a thriller. It's a
Slash horror type, because
I don't know if it's a horror, but it's a drama thriller, maybe with a little bit of a horror element.
Yeah, because you got to think about it. We're having pretty much a serial killer, taxi driver person killing people. So
yeah, pretty much. It's definitely a horror for the people that end up being his passengers, and it's a horror for the viewer because even his passengers by themselves are just fucking horrible people.
Oh, well, don't forget, I went down to Florida, so I had to take an Uber from the train station to my hotel.
Was there any poisoned water in the bag?
I didn't touch anything. I shared my location with a few friends to make sure that they knew where I was at, including at the time my husband. So
just to be safe.
Just to be safe.
Just
yes.
to be safe. Well, the good news is about if anybody's worried about getting into an Uber or a Lyft after this movie is, unless that person's decided to go full on fuck it mode and this is their last day as a free person on Earth, you really don't have to worry about it because you are on Uber, and unless you got the wrong car or in some kind of setup or whatever, like it is being tracked. Like they can find you and figure it out. So.
And not only that, but you also have to think about it. There are cases, or have been cases, where people have pretended to be your pickup, so you gotta be careful.
That especially happens in South Africa. That's why you should always check the plate number, by the way, if you're concerned about that on your rideshare apps. Always check the plate number. So, our next question is, do I care about these people?
Not really.
No, not really. I don't care about them at all. I don't really care about him.
I mean, I think the director in this movie has made it a point to make the main character so dislikable that it's not even funny at this point in the movie.
I agree. And ironically, the only thing I found more unlikable than our main character was his victims, actually. And that was probably what makes this palatable to watch, honestly.
Well, I do feel sorry for a few of, maybe one of the victims later on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. A little sorry anyway. I mean, I think I know which victim you're talking about. Okay, so our next question, Danny, is do I care about what's happening to them?
Sort of.
I did, because, it was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting, especially to see how he goes about doing it.
Yeah, this is a great example of a movie where...
I mean, it's creative.
Oh, it's very creative. Like, this is a great example of a movie where I hate these people, but I do care about what's happening. So this movie absolutely has me sold on that point. That's what I really liked about this, is that, yeah, no, I do care about what's happening to them because this shit wild. This is crazy.
I mean, it's like 1,000 Ways to Die. Remember that TV show?
Yes, I do. I always think about the chick that shaved with a rusty razor and died from some bacteria.
I think about the Death by Chocolate.
Oh my god, I don't think I saw that one. So our next question is, does it capture my interest within the first 20 minutes?
Approximately. I mean, we get the backstory. We have to get the backstory of the main character.
Yeah, and I think he got his first kill by the first 20 minutes, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think he got more than one by that time. So yeah, no, it definitely captures it within the first 20 minutes. Do I think that the acting is good in this movie?
Well, yeah, like I said, the director made the main character who's trying to be an influencer very, very dislikable. If you think about it, I believe it's even explained in the movie, not everyone can be an influencer.
Yeah, it's like Bobby Basecamp says, some people just have that born influencer gene or whatever. And another reason I think this is really well acted is this is the dude from Stranger Things that I didn't think I was going to like at first when I started Stranger Things, but turned out to be literally my favorite character in that whole thing. And I like all the people in Stranger Things, but I liked him the most because of what he did with his circumstances. So given that this is an actor who I loved his character in something else that I spent hours and hours watching, the fact that I didn't like him at all in this definitely tells me, bro, that's a good actor.
Oh yeah, because he turns it around. He can actually accurately portray someone that can be hated.
Yeah, dude. And like, I don't know shit about acting except that like that's where all the kids that smoked weed were at the community college I was at 10 years ago, and that was a class you could go to while you were high. But like, one of the things that I remember the lady that taught that class telling us is that, every good actor has to play a role, at least one person that they don't like. And sometimes the measure of an actor is how well they play a character that they hate. I feel like this is definitely a character that this actor hated properly enough to do really, really well. So yeah, the acting is really on point in this movie. Is there anything that you like about the world in which this movie is set?
Well, it takes place in modern times.
Yeah, it's modern times, and it's California, as you know. I love California.
Yeah. And it does touch on the concept that everyone, while traveling, or even in their local area now, but while they were traveling when it came to taxis, come about. Because I believe there was an actual case with a fake taxi driver that would gas and kill people.
Yeah, I tell you what, it was probably definitely easier for serial killers to get away with this stuff before the days of like smartphones and rideshare apps, back when you just had to have like a yellow Crown Vic Vic and, go pick up somebody that waved their arm. And
or pretend to be a cop, like Ted Bundy, I believe, was the one that did that.
well, you could do that now. All you have to do is like show up and kill someone's dog and turn your body cam off. Not to get all preachy, but yeah. And on that note too, it's kind of a love-hate relationship with the world in which this movie is set, because like, yeah, I love it because it's California, and I hate it because it's the modern world in which we live, where people care more about getting likes than they do about being themselves. So yeah, I love it and I hate it, and that definitely made for a good dynamic for me liking the world of this movie.
Yeah, because he himself is not unique. If you actually take a minute and step back, he himself is not unique enough to have enough followers to hit the double digits, but yet the people that he's ending their lives early for,
pretty basic, pretty average people.
Yeah, are pretty average people, but
we've all met one of these fucking people and kind of wanted to kill them at some point in time, so you don't feel too bad watching this movie as they're getting murked.
Yeah, but at the same time, they're also influencers. They have a large following base and everything else.
And let's face it, if you spend enough time watching a quote-unquote influencer's video, you'll either want to kill them or yourselves personally. So anyway, here's our next question. Our next question is, do I like the style in which this movie is made?
Sort of. I usually don't like first-person movies.
I usually don't either, but this was a really good one. I really liked the way that it took all of our modern things, the way that we see the world in the modern age, like, because it really looked like YouTube videos. You could tell it wasn't like high-quality cameras that they were making these little selfies through, and these little like videos and shit through. I actually read somewhere that this guy, he actually made thousands of videos for this to get in character for this awful character.
And not only that, but when we paused the movie several times, it looked like we were on YouTube and or TikTok or Instagram and all this other shit.
They couldn't use any of these names because obviously none of those apps want their name on a movie that could easily be influenced and claimed in court and inspired somebody to go kill people. But it still really gave the feel of all that of,
these are just examples. They came up with their own names, like Spree for the rideshare, and I think it was called the Gram for one of the other things. I love how they said the Gram, because everybody knows the Gram. I mean, shit, it's in a fucking Yo Gotti song, okay? I love the Gram. I'm addicted, yeah, I know I am. Yeah, so, it's like, I really liked how they couldn't use the exact names, but you knew exactly what they were talking about. So, yeah, the style in this movie was really on point. And it's a pretty common style. There's a lot of movies made like this, but this one did it, and it did it well. So, yeah, I did like the style in which this movie was made. So, our next question is, could I watch this movie with my family? If they are horror fans.
Or they like watching irritating people getting killed, I guess. There's, like I said, our main criteria for this question is there any, really explicit sex scenes? And is the language really, really raw? And the language probably gets a 2.5 to 3 out of 5. It's not too bad. 4 and above is too much. Yeah, no, you probably could if they like, not senseless violence, but if they really like a good social commentary and they can handle a little bit of violence. And honestly, I could say in this movie that the violence is actually really toned down in this movie, because even though it happens, it's pretty implied.
Some of it is off screen.
Yeah, like
how he's disposing of the bodies, for example.
And even like the dog mauling is off screen. Like it's you hear it, but you don't see it. So you actually could watch this movie with your family. It's a toss up to whether or not they'll make it, and it depends on like what they're into and what kind of mood they're having and whatever. But you know what? I kind of almost want to know if I might want to try that just to see what'll happen. Like I don't want to bet you any money about whether or not my family would make it through this movie, but it definitely is toned down enough that I might try.
Well, my mom likes horror too, so
I know your mom would make it through it.
My mom can make it through it. We watch horror movies all the time, almost like paranormal ones too. So
your mom is a German immigrant that practices witchcraft. Like my parents are Southern Baptists from the Southeast, so I know your mom would finish it. I'm 50-50 on mine.
Well, yeah, my mom grew up in the old country. What can I say?
I guess you could say they're used to killing lots of people, and she's used to that, huh? Anyway, moving on. Is there a moral to this story? I don't think so, honestly.
Sort of.
I mean,
I have sort of one.
I'd love to hear it because I can't find one.
Don't always trust what you see.
Yeah, and
let me elaborate on that.
Okay.
I mean, for example,
what do you mean by that?
For example, for the main character, Kurt, let's say he did have a bigger platform and he started doing this. They would think it's a stunt. However, since he has such a low
platform,
it doesn't even register that it is a possibility that he could be doing this.
Yeah, I agree. That I thought that's where you were going with this, and I definitely agree. I was, had to stop myself from interrupting you with my attention deficit disorder. But yeah, no, I completely agree. That's exactly something we've said before. Don't underestimate people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially now that we're literally in a social media age. Just because someone posts a picture or something doesn't necessarily mean it is true on the other side of that picture.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or video or anything like that.
And you know what? Now that I think about it, I guess there is actually a moral to this story that I see, and it's a very, very old one. This reminds me of that Kurt Vonnegut quote where he said, "Those who cannot create must destroy. It's as old as time and juvenile delinquency." And what that means in relation to this movie is an even simpler old adage, which is that people that can't get positive attention will gladly take negative attention if that's the only attention they can get.
Well, it's the same thing with the paparazzi and all that. Any attention is good attention, really.
Any attention is good attention. You said it better than I could. That's definitely the moral to this story. And watch out for people that are desperate for attention that aren't very good at getting it. So our next question is, did it give me context within the first 5 minutes? I would have to say, yeah, like probably better than...
A little bit, because don't forget, within the first 5 minutes, we're still getting the backstory of the character.
Right, like it doesn't tell us where it's going. It takes 10 or 15, 20 minutes to get there, but it does give you context because it starts out saying, "Hi, I'm Kurt from Kurt's World, and here's the little drawings of my life, and here's what I do, and here's why I'm talking to you right now." And you can tell that it's leading somewhere. You can tell it's a movie about a guy that's desperate to get somewhere in the social media age, and here's his attempts to do it and where that leads him. So,
yeah.
I would say it gets pretty good context in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, but we also, in one of the videos, like right after he kills his first kill by water bottle.
The fucking white supremacist, I love that.
Yeah, by water bottle.
Fuck that guy.
We get the YouTube video of him messing with the water bottle, but we also see the parentheses, the countdown day to #the lesson.
Yeah, most definitely. And I like how that guy learned a fucking lesson. Like, he learned you know what lesson that first guy learned? The only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. That's the fucking lesson he learned, for sure. So, anyway, our next question is, does it have an ending, or did it just quit?
It has an ending.
It has a good ending. It definitely, like, this movie's building the whole time, and know, it would be a shitty movie if it had a bad ending, but it doesn't. It's really well constructed all throughout, and the ending is well planned. I think whoever wrote this probably began with the end in mind.
Well, don't forget it. I believe it's also based on a true story.
Is this based on a true story?
Yes, it is. It actually happened in August 2016 in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Damn. I guess that shows how good Uber's PR is that they had that buried in the news or have moved on past it. So, our next question is, we just kind of answered that in our last question, is it believable or not?
Yeah,
100%.
It's based off a true story.
It's based off a true story.
Or true events in this case.
To be straight up, is it believable or not? Last week, a guy just shot up a grocery store in Buffalo while he was live streaming on Twitch. So, yeah, it's definitely believable. I'm just surprised this doesn't happen more, and I hope it doesn't.
Well, don't forget, there was also a Facebook trend of going live and unaliving yourself.
That's fine. You got a right to kill yourself if you want to, but it's other people.
But don't forget, don't forget, though, it was on Facebook Live, so there's actually several songs that go, "Oh, turn on Facebook Live, kill yourself, I want to watch."
Yeah, that's pretty fucking punk rock, I'll be honest with you. So, our next question is, was there a good twist to this movie?
Several.
Yeah, there were a couple of good twists to this movie for sure, and it kind of spun a few up and resolved them well in the plot line. Like, they kind of wound some springs, so to speak, and then set them loose, and you're like, oh shit, I knew something was going to happen with that it set you up for earlier. So yeah, it's got some good twists in it. Like, nothing major, like no holy fuck moments, but like it definitely had some good ones. The holy fuck ones being, the ones where you didn't even know that you were being set up for one. Like, you kind of know that there's something coming. You get the suspicion, like deja vu, that it's coming in this one. But yeah, no, it has some good twists in it for sure. So, does this movie teach anything believable about life?
Yeah, always make sure you let people know what you're doing, where you're going, and not only that, but question whether or not what you're watching is actually fiction or non-fiction.
Yeah, I would say it teaches this about life too. It teaches that something that I remember a psychology teacher I had once in like just a basic intro psychology class saying, she goes, there's only two things that human beings cannot tolerate, and that's being isolated and being ignored. And this guy was literally both, because he talks about being alone, and when you look at his numbers, even though he's putting content and shit out there every day, he was being completely ignored. He was even being ignored even as he's like out there killing people for attention for the first long part of it, for the first 7 people at least.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's very believable, and it definitely teaches that for sure. So I guess our last question is, would you buy or rent this movie?
I would rent it. This is not one of the ones that I would have on my shelf under like horror or even thriller. This is not one of those ones I would have under there that I would want to watch all the time. This is like...
No. And for that matter, if you know someone that owns this movie and it's like their favorite movie and they watch it all the time, be careful when you hang out with that
that's
person.
That's a red flag.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a red flag.
If they pull out their phone and start live streaming, it's time to leave.
It's time to slowly back out the door, call 911, and let them deal with the crazy.
And let them deal with the fucking crazy. Well, thank you guys for tuning in for the 3rd episode. We appreciate you, and come back next week where we talk about another crazy ass movie that involves social media called Zola. Have a great night. Thank you guys.
Bye guys.